has been the story of this series, and JJ wants to keep that ball rolling.
At least this time around, the Wukong is open. RNG did go for that one in Game 1, but I felt like it wasn't like a Wukong problem, right? It was their comp holistically and how it played into what EDG have picked up. So they always could look to go towards that. Right now, thinking about picking up the Zeri for themselves, I think their fear is if they give it over to the opposing side. I mean, one of the things that does great at shutting down the Zeri is just the point-and-click ultimate that the Vi is able to bring. So not wanting to give both over, and finally Gala will be the one to get his hands on the Zeri pick.
You know, it's just, I've had a vision, Lyric. It's flashed across my eyes here. Viper and Mako, they're going to take the Lucian this time around. They're going to take the Lucian Na'Vi, and they're going to show Gala and Ming what's up with that bottom lane matchup. We'll see if that actually comes to pass, but it would be exciting if they decided to throw the gauntlet down in that way. As Viego locked in for Wei. So you mentioned that Wukong before. RNG going for a different direction.
And I hope it works out. It is Wei's Viego. I've said personally, I feel like we have not really seen this champ have the same impact, you know, in this meta that it was having in prior patches when it was a high priority. On now EDG, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I can totally see them locking in Lucian Na'Vi here and going with that same strata of their own, and we'll see what they're able to do because they've been able to come out in the bot lane, like isolated 2v2 pretty consistently. In the last game, there was a point where they were forced to blow flashes, but still keeping up and keeping ahead in CS. And now for RNG, you'd expect the Lulu to be what comes through. That's always what you see paired alongside that Zeri if the Yuumi isn't available.
All right, Lucian Na'Vi is there. Like you said, the Lulu available. And I feel like RNG, if they don't pick it now, they ain't getting it. But the question is, do they want to put Ming on an Enchanter once more, or do they want the hard engage? This has been the conversation all day long, and it has been Ming on Enchanters. Now we get an engage support for Ming. Now we get his Leona.
Will be much rougher for them in regards to the 2v2, but at least this sets them up for success as long as they don't get smashed in that regard. Because one of the things I really don't like about the Viego, as I said, is you really aren't bringing much setup. You aren't really bringing a front line into the game. It's just, you know, more damage, more resets able to come through. And we've seen from RNG, it's kind of hard to find that frontline role elsewhere when it isn't Ming the one picking up the slack. So for RNG, they're going to go with that. They're going to go with Comfort, and they're going to target Flandre in second rotation with these bans once again.
I love that we see the only top lane bans so far, target bans from Breathe and Flandre against each other, against the things that they've struggled with in this series. But the Gwen, still open and available. That has been a power pick. We've seen Ornn, we've seen Kennen, a few picks still available there for the top side. Gnar, which has been kind of ignored so far this series.
Which has been a little bit surprising. I definitely lean towards the Gwen out of things left open that RNG potentially could want to look for. Obviously, it does well into the Vi. Your W just stopping her ult in its tracks, and then giving them that mixed damage in terms of top and jungle synergy that they go for. And then you could leave your last pick for Xiaohu. Xiaohu's pool isn't really, like, very counter pick-esque. Like, a lot of his champions are blind picks, right? The Talias, the Aries, the Lissandras. But maybe if you are going to let things like the Azir go through, I feel like blinding top is maybe a safer route, and then giving Xiaohu that optimal matchup would be a nice way to play through.
Well, we keep on talking about engage tools for RNG, the Sejuani being hovered, and then a whole host of other top laners. But feels like the plan here is going to be playing towards that bottom side once again. But again, perhaps just go for a blind pick in the mid lane instead. Go for the counter pick for Breathe. Obviously the Fiora ban, but that Gwen, if it can get a good matchup, would be amazing. But it will just be the blind Ornn instead. Can we get a Flandre Kayle here?
You know, with Flandre, I never know what to expect. For EDG, stylistically, I don't think that's what I'd expect to come through. I think leaving Flandre on something that is a little bit more self-sufficient is a good call. The Azir, something we hit on. Again, Xiao doesn't have any champions that I think go well against this. Out of what is left open, like my mind is, if EDG lock it in, which they just did, things like LeBlanc still available that Xiao could theoretically look to go towards. And now we see what Flandre can go up in this top side, right? Because against Ornn, in regards to lane, you have a lot of options available, like the Gnar, the Gwen, the Sejuani. Any of these would do just fine. This, though, would at least double down on their ability to look for team fights, to lock people down, and then burst them out, and overall just keep people like Scout and Viper very safe.
Yeah, Yeah, a little disappointing to see the Sejuani. We could have seen St. Gumbro come back. You're locking a different AD character, Lucian, up to the top lane for Flandre. I never expected that, but it would have been funny to see Vex being hovered. We saw this hovered earlier on in the draft as well. Xiaohu perhaps looking to go for a bit of dive. And once again, reset City out from Xiaohu and Wei. This is what they attempted in game, I think it was number 2. But whether or not they'll be able to pull it off this time around with the Vex will be a different question.
I'm actually really surprised they locked this one in. Vex very vulnerable in terms of like early laning against these like long range control mage champions. That's why you really only see it come out against things like the LeBlanc or Ahri, these like more mobile assassins. You're getting a lot of passive procs against them. Your passive not going to be as useful against Azir. He does have a dash, but still, and even at level 6, if you find a window to ult him with your ulti, he still has the Emperor's Divide available. If you don't 100 to 0 him, he will manage to escape. So RNG are going to play it. They locked it in, Munch, but it's time to see if they can execute on something more niche.
Yeah, let's find out. RNG against the ropes here. They've got one game under their belt now. They went 0-2 and then managed to find a way back into the series. And now Xiaohu bringing out a Vex for game number 4. You can see the win rate there is not pretty for Vex, and that's a lockdown to the laning phase against an Azir. And this is Scout's Azir. Of all people, like, Scout is just an absolute monster on the pig. I feel like I'm personally favoring EDG's draft coming into this one. I'm curious on your take of the win conditions here, Lyric, but we'll talk about that in a moment once we get onto the Rift, because it's game number 4. It's EDG versus RNG. I was scared it would be a 3-0 after game 2, but RNG are back on the board. They are fighting tooth and nail to keep their dream alive. They won MSI, they won Spring, and they do not want to fall just yet.
No, RNG wanting to make the run, get another position to where you set it up right. The golden road is potentially there for RNG. 1 Spring, 1 MSI. If they can find the reverse sweep, those dreams will still be alive. But I think it is looking pretty rough. And you said you're favoring EDG. I like what they put together because, again, it's very, I'd say, reliable. You know what these champions do. Solid front-to-back team fighting. You have places of early pressure coming out from their bottom lane. You know you should have pressure in mid and very strong 5v5. For RNG, it's a little bit like they put together a dive comp, right? Orin opens up Call of the Forge God. You have Vex who can go in, try and set up resets for Diego. Ming's going to jump in as well. But I'm scared if this Vex can't get off the ground, Vex is pretty one-dimensional champion in regards to really only a value once your ult's up and being able to find access to assassinate targets. And that could be pretty hard if Scout's able to keep Xiaohu down.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is RNG, at least in the late game, they've got the Zeri this time around. EDG trying to spot out for the level 1. Mako sees them. Gala moving in. So, red buff invaded here by RNG. I like the late invade. They will be able to grab that buff for themselves. But JJ playing with full information here. Viper and Mako just going to get a little bit of damage down before the lane starts as Wei moves through the Tri-Brush. You expect him to move back and go for those chickens, though.
Happy to see that Mako and Viper were showing the respect to still like kind of wait back a second, make sure there's no shenanigans coming out from Wei, because I feel like we've seen invades come level 1 and then bot lane duos still fall prey to a gank from a jungler who is on their side of the jungle, as Flandre quite literally playing with fire.
Yeah, I love this matchup as well. I feel like this is the matchup between the 2 tanks that have too much damage in their kit and so become playable in the top side, right, with the Sejuani and the Ornn. Wei, though, does the chicken to moves down as a good route comes out from Ming with the level 2 spike as well. It's just going to be a trade, though, as Viper and Mako doing a surprising amount of damage onto that Leona.
For RNG, though, you're fine going with heavy trades because you have more members on this bottom half of the map. But we might actually have to get the observers. Okay, good. Pan up the top side because some pings did come out. JJ will be spotted by a ward. But yeah, when you have jungle on your side of the map, right, if you lose more health than the enemy, it's kind of fine because you can get in a position where you can either create a dive or get that gank to come through. It's just more advantageous that the enemy health bars are lower as well. So RNG overall trying to look for this, but Scout also very aware, kind of leaning down towards his bottom lane.
Yeah, Wei wants to go for a dive here. As you say, Scout leaning down, but He's got a long way to go if he wants to try and make it into the play. Does have TP available, as does Flandre, so keep your eyes on the solo laners, potentially TPing to protect EDG's bottom lane. Wei is spending so much time to try and make this play happen, and Gala just getting chunked out by Viper and Mako. Here goes the dive, though. Flash available for Viper as the stun comes on in. It's 1-0. Wei with first blood, and Gala surviving. The reset for Wei here, as Viper will live on, but it's damage done.
And Xiaohu somehow managed to cancel Scout's TP. I mean, you assume his fear was up, but I wonder how he got in range to close that distance to stop it. Scout may be trying in a bit of a sus location because Xiaohu still having flash available means RNG get the dive off, no problem. We're going to see here how it happens. Oh, okay, so does it under his own turret, but still in a place where Xiaohu can easily cancel.
Yeah, I think Scout may be underestimating the range that Vex has on that Q, being able to get the fear off. So Xiaohu very casually stopping Scout from getting the TP off and setting his team up for this first blood. Wei getting the ball rolling too.
I cannot believe this worked with how low they were and how much HP EDG had. It was just, you know, Ming locking down the Nami. Does have to flash out to not go down to turret, but still enough damage and enough burst was there for them to guarantee one.
Kind of insane, honestly, that both Ming and Wei survived that play. Immaculate dive on the bottom side. It's cost Wei a lot in terms of the jungle, though. Look at the difference in CS between JJ and Wei right now. We need to see JJ convert that gold into something. You can see healing reduction already locked in for him as he goes towards that Kempunk Chainsword once more.
And that will be the window where JJ will have opportunities to fight, right? Once Kempunk Chainsword is done, because it is a cheaper item, there will be like a small window where you have, you know, stats advantages over your counterpart jungler, and you're going to be really strong looking at those 2v2s or looking at those 3v3s when you're going for these ganks in lane. It doesn't really even matter if RNG look to match. But speaking of lane ganks, JJ this time around going to try and find his.
This will be so crucial. This will be massive because remember, this Lucian Nami needs to be ahead. We talked about it when it was RNG trying to pilot. This time it's Viper and Mako. Heavy trade onto Gala. Look at that damage. He kind of fumbles the E, and the flash is forced out. That wasn't even anything to do with JJ. That's just Viper and Mako.
Viper and Mako knowing how to maneuver these champions. They've been so confident on the Lucian and Nami lane. And now with JJ just sitting right behind them, having no fear, even if Wei made his way down, which obviously they'd vision on him. He was clearing out a ward, but great job to take advantage of that window. And now Ming has to be careful.
May just sends him flying. Mako, sorry, sends him flying with the blast cone there. And Viper gets a chance to get on this tower. Importantly as well, worth mentioning that Viper has that first strike. So every time he jumps in and does a big burst like this, not only is it going to do a little bit more damage, it's also going to be a nice little influx of cash, even if they don't finish off a kill. So Viper, expect him to be a very rich man across the course of this game.
And he's going to do well to be able to get the Gale Force earlier than Gala could pick up his Mythic and then have opportunities for that all-in window, which, speaking of just making cold hard cash, Flandre doing the same up in that top side.
Oh yeah, EDG though, they don't want to lose control of the bottom side of the map here as Drake started by RNG. EDG only 3 strong and Scout still on his way. He's got a long way to go though. Nice little dodge on the Zenith Blade. Here's Scout behind enemy lines, has that ultimate available. Ming only level 4 and just doesn't have the health to work with. A bubble from Mako onto 2. A Scout knocks Scarlet to safety. Bit of a misplay, but it does not matter. 2 kills for EDG.
RNG having the confidence to look for this fight because they have that Vex in the mid lane. They're positioning on Dragon first. But the fact that the Zenith Blade doesn't connect, you're not able to find that engage, gives the window for EDG. So Dragon gonna go over, and EDG gonna keep up pressure and prio in these lanes.
Feels like a good start here for EDG with such an important fight over that first Drake. Ming mispositioning slightly, punished heavily by JJ. Look at that bubble from Mako. My goodness. Scout trying to go for the flash knockback, but doesn't quite find his mark.
No, but like you said, beautiful bubble coming out from Mako to guarantee that another kill was picked up. Kind of came into the fight, I think, after the important part for RNG where they weren't able to find that engage. And right, one of the benefits of RNG's comp is, you know, having this earlier spike on a champion like a Vex over Nazir to be able to take these fights. You can already see him picking up the Sorcerer Shoes, so giving him that assassination all-in potential. When his ult comes back up off cooldown, I want to see, you know, Wei hovering over his Wei. He needs to be careful now.
Yeah, Flandre just launches himself at Wei. I'm not sure if Flandre actually had information that Wei was there. Should have known he was on that side of the map, but not afraid of the Sejuani, and rightly so. I mean, he's got a 10 CS lead. He's 2 levels up over Wei in the jungle, right? Like, not surprising as a solo laner. It's going to be Herald started here by RNG, and you can see EDG's bottom lane on the way over, but they are late to the party.
Also having a bit of an item advantage, right? Even though we're still in components, Noon Quiver plus Pickaxe just against a Vampiric Scepter and Longsword on the opposing side. So EDG feeling very comfortable to look for this, especially with the fact that Sejuani was leaning over first and Breathe had to catch a wave. So EDG doing a great job to once again find these early leads.
So tell me, Lyric, how scary is this? Hang on, calling over the wall. Xiaohu gonna be caught here. The bubble slightly wide for the Gale Force. Oh my goodness, Xiaohu, by the skin of his teeth, will survive.
Xiaohu getting incredibly lucky on that one, but now not having the flash makes it even rougher in terms of looking for these opportunities to leave lane, because, I mean, that's one of X's big weaknesses, right? Is the fact that she is an immobile champion. She is open to just prone to getting ganked or even ignoring the ganks. How do you move from lane when you have to fear walking into river when you have no flash? And it's setting up these moments for Scout to also find turret plating as well. All 3 lanes of EDG finding turret plating in early gold so far has actually given them a 2k gold lead.
Yeah, this is insane, and it's all lane differences so far. And we mentioned Wei getting that incredible dive off in the bottom side. As Flandre, he's been warded here, but he wants to go for a dive onto Xiaohu. No flash available for Xiaohu. There's the lockup. In goes everybody. Xiaohu falls, and Scout happy to tank that tower up in the short term, but JJ locked up and taken down. 1 for 1, and a great answer from Wei and Ming, who won a little bit more. Scout's in trouble here. The Call of the Forge God is going in. Scout 1 HP. The shield comes through, and he pulls off Xiaohu's trick.
That was so close. Manages to escape in the end, but RNG committing more members. Ming was already waiting in the wings for the 3v3, and that gave time for Breathe to make the roam. And now getting some much-needed gold on their side when we talked about how much they're starting to fall behind. So great counterpunch coming out from RNG. Now with no neutral objective up on the board, sadly not going to be able to turn this into anything. But even the cash injection is very needed for RNG. As we see here, Flandre wants to look for the play, but Ming waiting in the wing. Sure, they have the damage and the ability to burst out Xiaohu quick enough, but the lockdown coming out from Ming and then the ult from Wei guarantees that first kill. And this one, so close, they get the stun, Call of the Forge God coming through. Doesn't connect. I mean, that could have been the difference maker right there. And has enough time to be able to get that dash and get that shield up.
It's kind of funny to see as well when you consider the fact that the thing we've complimented so much today for EDG is the coordination. The reason the ult misses for Breathe is he's predicting the movements of Scout, and Ming gets the root. So kind of a little bit of miscommunication here from the side of RNG, not having that coordination working for them. I do want to quickly mention, though, the Herald in the pocket of JJ still. Hasn't placed that in any lane just yet. All 3 lanes with 4 plates available. If you can find a pick, that's a first tower wherever you place it.
For EDG as well, this is when they're hitting a really big spike because, you know, they had the first strike. We saw Viper getting turret plates. Has already picked up the Gale Force ahead on his mythic compared to Gala. And you can see EDG, they realize that. They know where the potential play is. Already 2 plates down. Everyone coming down to the bot side.
Yeah, this is going to be a tower, surely. TP's on cooldown for RNG. Ming and Gala, you got to back away from this one. Even with your jungler, I'm not sure this is a fight that you can take. There we go. Tower down. A huge portion of gold just slapped into Viper's pocket. He'll be very happy with that one. Drinks on Viper tonight, boys.
We even see just EDG overall, the coordination's still there because while this play was going on, Flandre was actually hovering down towards mid as Ming goes in.
Certainly does. That's a stun onto Viper as well. Flash away from the Vex ulti, though. As Gala, what is he doing?
What?
1v3 dives in the middle of everyone. Gala loses his mind, and now a pick onto Wei on top of it. RNG, they fall apart.
What do you even say to that? I have no idea. No idea what Gala had in his mind, what he was looking at, what the communication on RNG was. I just don't know. What was that? What is going on?
Speechless. I'm near speechless. And I talk for a living. It's not often you get me speechless. So, I mean, aggressive trade here. Ming going in, you know, fair enough. Like, tries to make the play. Viper survives, dodges. And then...
Like, I don't know. Is it a misclick? Is it... What is it? What is this?
I don't know. But Wei getting caught out as well off the back of the play. I feel like he must have thought Wei was going deeper. He thought Ming was going deeper. It's the only explanation, right, that he felt the rest of the team was going to charge on in. But my goodness gracious me. Gala, what a fumble. And this is the player that we always talk about when the high pressure situations hit. He's been the man to step up for RNG in so many games over the last couple of years. And now, in game number 4, when they're 2-1 down, it's Gala that has a bit of an apple crumble.
And it also goes back to what we said, that this hasn't actually been, like, the most exceptional split from Gala. I don't think it's been bad by any regards, but, like, he didn't make any of the All-Pro teams, right? And I saw a lot of people questioning that, but I actually think kind of warranted off of a bit of a quieter split. There were still pentakills there. There were still highlight moments, but other AD carries in the league were also having those on a more consistent basis. This was the time we thought Gala would, you know, step up more, show us what he's shown us when he was picking up things like finals MVPs and just having such great showings. And yeah, instead, slight misstep, which brings us to items, Munch, because items are the most telling story of where we're at right now. Full item completed across the board for the side of EDG. Only Blade of the Rune King done for RNG, picked up by Wei.
And I mean, just look at the bottom lane difference right there. An item and a half for Viper. And sure, Gala has boots over Viper, but on Illusion, I don't think Viper's going to mind too much about a lack of boots. As Herald going to be started here by EDG. They know exactly what you're saying. They are much stronger across the board. They're the ones that can dictate the pace of the game now with a 3,500 gold lead at 15 minutes. And Lyric, I'm getting a little nervous for RNG because the game that's most similar to this one so far this series is game number 1, and that was not pretty for RNG.
Weird hit on as well. Champions like Vex, very rough, very hard to play from behind. It's all about your ulti. You pretty much only go in. Once you are in, you are committed. There's no way of getting out. RNG will always have opportunities to burst someone out. They have quite a bit of CC, and of course, Vex brings the burst. You have damage coming out from Zeri. You have the ult from Viego. But I feel like that's going to rely on either mistakes from EDG or like some kind of cheeky cross-map plays where they're able to set up for these picks and EDG aren't able to match. So we'll see what RNG have in mind, because for EDG, they're fine with the pace of the game. They not only have another Herald where they can look to go break down mid lane turret, but they also are the team sitting on 2 Drakes.
Yep, they've got 2 Drakes, and also they've got an Azir, they've got a Sejuani. Like, it's not like this is a team that's going to fall off of a cliff. The team fighting later on from Scout will be something to behold as Viper goes in onto Ming and Gala. Culling dodged mostly. Ming taking a bit of a chunk, but the Herald will come down here. Wei in the wings. Breathe trying to move on over. I think EDG have to respect and back away here. Call of the Forge got dodged by Mako. Still has Flash. And he'll walk away from this one. I feel like the attempted engage from RNG just not going to stick, and EDG move back in to take the tower. Really nicely executed by EDG.
EDG realized, I mean, those are the 2 big engaged ultis down. The only other avenue RNG would have is Xiaohu throwing out his ult. You know, that lands on someone, you go and you try and find a multi-man fear. But even if that misses, it's just doomed. So I think RNG made the right call. Not count on that to be the window to get them in. Those 2 critical ults are down, just back off. But it does give EDG an even further lead, now up to 4,500, 50 seconds until Drake. And for RNG, I feel like you're in a place where you have to contest, but I also feel like there's no way you win a contest, Munch.
Yeah, there's no universe, right? When you've got the scaling AD carry anyway, you got a Vex on just 1 item against this Azir that has almost finished his second at this point. Scout is just an absolute monster. And as you say, Viper already on the 2 items. Grouping up for the Drake are EDG. 5 men strong here. As Breathe will recall, has the teleport available. Honestly, RNG, they need a miracle. They need a pick that is going to turn the face of this game if they want to contest the Dragon.
They're going to need like a huge ult from either Breathe or Ming, set up for Xiaohu to get on a key target, and then Wei get the reset. I feel like that's the only world. Xiaohu with the damage, Wei with the reset is Flandre. Kind of using that ult a little bit liberally. In my mind, I don't see how that pick would have been able to come through, but at least they're fishing for it.
But I think the idea there from Flandre is just burn Wei's ult. Make it so difficult for him to move into this Dragon Pit and look for a pick himself. Dragon started here by EDG, but they don't want to overcommit. They don't want to ruin the play for themselves. Blaze is out from Gala, but remember, he's only on one item so far.
Like we said, for RNG, what we're looking at, if Breathe can find a multi-man knock-up, or Ming can, at the same time, lock numerous people down, it sets up for Xiaohu to find that ult, hopefully onto Scout or Viper. If you can combo that with Wei getting it at the same time to find a reset, that'd be huge. But like you're saying, without Wei having that ultimate, it actually makes it a lot harder for RNG to be able to find that window. But EDG still paying a lot of respect to the side of RNG.
I will say, Flandre's ult is almost available again. I feel like EDG are just saying, look, we'll trade Flandre's ult for Wei's, and then we'll wait for Flandre's ult to come back up. We know we have the cooldown, and you don't. So now RNG have to try and move in. But look at Scout. He just moves to the mid lane. He's going to pressure a tier 2 instead.
Oh, and actually going to make his way back in time. EDG want everything, Mudge. They want their cake, and they want to eat it too as they're pressuring mid. And now, finally, maybe looking for this fight with that ulti available.
Yeah, culling across the team there. RNG are starting to get fairly low, and the Nami on the side of EDG giving so much sustain as Flandre zoning everybody away here. 5k. That's an ulti and a half onto Xiaohu. And now on the back line goes JJ as Wei chased out of the play and taken down. Ming next on the chopping block. And EDG, they want to keep their hopes alive. They want to move into double elimination.
We saw Flandre be so decisive with that ultimate. Xiaohu, in front of our eyes, gone out of nowhere, gets them on Soul Point. They furthered their lead even more. EDG, again, wanting to run back what they did last year in summer. Beautiful ult to come out from Flandre, and Viper is just so quick to follow up. Once again, the coordination from EDG has just been so beautiful. With the damage now taken off the board, the item advantages are there. Gala just has to dip, and it leads EDG to be able to pick up that dragon.
And now we see EDG with 3 Drakes with a 6,000 gold lead. And remember, EDG, they've won the LPL 6 times already. RNG on the 5. We saw an interview with Wei coming into the series saying, you know, they've won the LPL more than we have. We need to get this series on lock. Well, it's not looking good for them because EDG, they want to make their way into that double elimination. Once again, Viper getting himself that Tidecaller's Blessing. I thought he was going to Gale Force it and try and go for a dive of Gala, but with Ming in the wings, they decide to hold it. Now, EDG, eyes on that Baron as they start to pressure all the way across the map.
And I love it much. I love how aggressive EDG are pushing into the enemy jungle. They know victory. It's right there. It's right in front of them, Munch. It's like a little squirrel at a park and you take a picture of it. It's really cute, but you can't go touch it because it's a squirrel. It's right there. I'm sorry, I'm excited. That fight was so cool.
Well, EDG, they're going to try and touch the squirrel because that's how you win the game, is touching the squirrel. EDG pushing forward for a tier 2. They're right. That's the fluffy tail. They just got a little wisp of it on their fingers there as they take the tier 2 in the mid lane. Baron's still on the cards, but EDG, they know that they can't flip things right now, so they're just moving across the map, taking every single jungle camp away.
Yeah, they're denying so much gold from the side of RNG, not going to give them an avenue to catch back up. And we could just see it, right? Especially in that mid lane, the CS difference between Scout and Xiaohu. And I questioned it much. I love Vex. Vex is one of my favorite champions in the game, but I don't know, just picking Vex into Azir just seems so very risky. And right, not too much threat in the 1v1, but we've seen Xiaohu has not been able to find any avenues into any of these fights, and really just hasn't shown up. And if you have not watched LPL this split, Xiaohu has been the main difference maker for RNG. He's been the one stepping up. He made first all-pro team, so overall kind of being said by the league, whoever did vote, best mid lane in the league. But the fact that he's not stepping up, he needs to be their carry. And that's why it's so hard for RNG to find a win in the series.
And, you know, we saw him on the Taliyah being able to have an impact, right? Being able to set the game up. But the rest of the series, EDG haven't allowed a Taliyah pick to be a viable option, right? The Azir game's coming on through, making it really difficult. Now, EDG with a culling in the mid lane here. One more. Ming forced to flash on the top side. Breathe setting up. Here's the resets. A 1 1,000 gold shutdown for Xiaohu as he looks for more. He's on to Viper right here. He can dive in, but Flandre body blocking for the time being, and Viper turning it back around. This 4v5, and Flandre doesn't care. Decides to back away in the end. As EDG lose one, Scout down. Xiaohu now with a massive influx of gold.
Huge by RNG to be able to find a pick. Scout going too far forward on his lonesome allows that to happen. And then afterwards, RNG seemed to be on different pages because Wei wanting to go forward with his ult. Xiaohu had a reset. Xiaohu could have joined him, but seeming like he's not confident in the pick to be able to come through. And we will go back in the replay, right? EDG have multiple people pushing in mid, which gives them this opportunity to commit numbers advantage to the jungle to be able to pick up the kill on Scout.
That CC chain just so obnoxious. Scout not able to do anything about it. The mispositioning punished by RNG, keeping themselves alive in this game. But alive is the only word we can use here as Viper actually going to cleanse. He clearly thought there was going to be more of a dive onto him there. Going very aggressive and using a summoner. But crucially, let's talk about Drake here, Lirik. It's 40 seconds until Martin Drake comes up. It'd be sold for EDG. How on earth do RNG play this out?
I mean, RNG, right? They don't have pressure to be able to walk into River, but they're just going to have to try and take pressure 5-man mid once EDG are on the objective, try to push their way in. And if they can land those ults like we've talked about, the avenue is there. But EDG have just been playing these standoffs so patiently. We saw last time they waited for the perfect moment where Xiaohu walked just a touch too far forward to find the kill. So a lot going to be on Breathe and Ming to set this one up, to allow for Xiaohu, Wei, Gala to be able to follow up and start bursting down these priority targets.
Look at the sheer darkness around Drake as well. Breathe takes a massive chunk of damage. But as you say, patience from EDG. They don't overcommit. They know that's all. They know he's not the greatest target. I will say, the most recent patch, buffing up the durability of Dragons does make this harder to burst, but with a Lucian there, with Scout having a Leandries, I'm pretty sure EDG just get this. RNG trying to move on in, but the tidal wave denies the whole team, and EDG with just flawless macro take themselves a soul. Flandre charges on forward. They're so tanky at this point. Isming tries to set up the fight for his team, but are calling onto Xiaohu. Scout knocking everybody away, and EDG tearing RNG asunder. They make this series look easy. It's a 3-1 as Viper gets another. And my God, RNG, now they need a miracle.
Scout huge with the ultimate. EDG are poised to take down their longtime rivals. They have Soul, they have Baron, and at this point much, it feels like they have the series.
EDG reminding RNG who's the team that have the most LPL wins. Who are the reigning world champions? Let's take another look at the engage here from Flandre, denying any kind of follow-up.
Yeah, just playing keep away because he knows they can just knock this down so quickly. Mako on the same page as well, throwing out that tidal wave. But now with the shield coming in play, they feel confident looking for the engage. Ming tries to buy space for his damage dealers to be able to play, but once they all group up, Scout is set up for a huge Emperor's Divide. And then members of EDG are able to start following up, running down. You see the whole time Viper able to put down the DPS from the backline. And that's like the story of the series, right? Viper just getting to put down that free DPS, his front line functioning so well, his positioning great. But EDG, the cohesion of this team in playoffs has just been off the charts.
And Wei now could be caught as well. That's an ulti coming on through, and Viper has more than enough damage. Wei caught with his trousers down. And with a Baron in pocket, I feel like EDG, that's all they need to open this game up. JJ over the wall as Viper goes forward onto Ming as well. This cannon will finish the inhib tower by itself, but Flandre ain't afraid of no towers at this point. Just walking on into the base. They're not bothered about trying to play multiple inhibs here. You've got Scout on the tier 2, but EDG just walk forward through the front door.
And EDG, I like that they're even pushing in bot to make sure once Wei comes up, they don't just get stalled at like trying to posture and poke down for Nexus. They'll be able to open up 2 inhibs, and if RNG oversteps Gala, my God, that damage is huge.
RNG, Ming flashes forward. Here we go. Viper in trouble. He gets out to the backside of the fight, though, and turns it around. Wei goes too deep. Xiaohu in the middle of everyone, but Viper with a double. Scout finishes Gala, and Breathe limps onto his fountain, wounded and alone. Edward Gaming, your reigning world champions, remind RNG who the kings are.
For RNG, they're gonna be where you remember like why they were able to do so, and it starts to give you that faith back. And I don't know, man, EDG right now look terrifying. They have huge champion pools. They're able to play down towards that bot side and overwhelm you. Mid jungle's there. They've won a series with 2 different junglers. Like, I don't know. I don't know what there is to be negative about for EDG.
Yeah, and honestly, their next series that they're going to move towards in the bracket now is Top Esports, who, you know, we saw Top Esports kind of trip over a little bit versus V5 at the end of the split. Then V5 going forward to trip over even further than that. So it feels like, honestly, dare I say, maybe EDG could be a favorite moving into that series against Top Esports. I don't know. That's a controversial statement to say the very least. But, man, EDG looks scary. Top Esports, at least they will have footage to work with, right? Top Esports can go in very well prepared for what EDG are bringing.
I gotta say, though, like, I'm thinking about it, right? We just had Viper versus Gala. Obviously, Gala didn't really have much of an impact today, but still, the matchup was exciting. It was something you get hyped for. Now we get to move on to Viper versus JackeyLove. I am just so ready to see this bracket keep running forward, but EDG, I mean, the biggest highlight for me was the coordination. We talked about it so many times. The way they'd approach fights together, the way they'd get vision, or just try to enclose and capture space as a unit. They always had an idea. The last play when they were zoning them off Dragon, like Flandre throws out his ult first, you wait, you back up, Mako then throws out his ult. Like, everything was just timed so well for them to be able to pretty much do whatever they please. They touched the squirrel, Munch. You usually don't get to touch the squirrel, but they did it.
The squirrel came up and ate out of their hands, man, because, my goodness, they made it look easy. They waltzed this one in. 24,000 damage from Viper on the Lucian, and I think he might just look towards another MVP here. And it's hard to say, right? Because, you know, Flandre doing a great job at finding these engages. GHA obviously on point with the smites, on point with setting these lanes up early on. Scout Azir, I mean, what needs to be said about Scout Azir? But Viper, at the end of the day, the big damage threat, and we said it at the start of the day, I'll say it again now. Viper is one of these AD carries that if you can set up for him, you can guarantee he is going to step up later on in the game. We see it from EDG once again. They herald for him. They set him up in the early game. The rest is history.
I even remember, like, coming out of spring, like, going into MSI, me, Ox, and Dagda were talking, and in our mind, like again, Gala's great. Viper was still the best AD carry we had coming out of spring, despite the fact that EDG flopped. Like, he's just this player that he just feels so well-rounded and so consistent. He's not a player that really ever has lows. He always only has high highs. He's a highlight player. He's consistent. He lanes well. He team fights well. His spacing in game 1 on the Zeri, like after Kielts would come out, he knows he can run you down. Just, it's just terrifying. It's just so scary what this player is able to do.
The funny thing as well is it's not even like